What's up, guys? It's Primetime Poulton. I have a special guest with me today, Andy Smith. Right now, I have Andy Smith's chair with me. He will be with us shortly, though. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We're going to talk Andy's crowdfunded graphic novel, First Man, and we'll talk about his career. He's been in the industry 20 plus years. I'm going to remove Andy until he shows up. And while we're waiting on him, I'm going to talk a little Sea Dog and Codename Kill Switch, which is currently on Indiegogo. We just passed $10,000 today. That means everyone gets the neon swimsuit issue. Mini print. It's 5x9 size, so it'll come with your comic book. Next stretch goal, $15,000, and that will be a Rebel swimsuit issue. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It'll be a Rebel mini print. So let's look over the Sea Dog page. All right, guys. Our first 30 days wraps up this Sunday. We're gonna extend it, so have no fear if you're not able to back it. I see Andy is back, so I'm gonna add him to the stream. Hey, Andy, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, man, give me one. Is there an echo or anything, or are we good?
No, you're good.
Okay, dude, I don't know what happened. I'm actually on my cell phone now. My computer just restarted by itself.
No, that's crazy.
So I'm kind of like, what the hell's going on with this? Because that is not good. Why it's doing that? So yeah, I had no idea why it did that. But
yeah, no problem. We came from the countdown, and your chair was empty, and I lost my train of thought for a second. But happy to see you're back with me and getting things set up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, it's all good.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate it. Doing really good.
Yeah. What's the typical day in the life of Andy Smith?
Usually it's not freaking out about my computer. I usually get up and try to get up in my office around 8 o'clock. I get up like around 6:30, 6:45, and my wife's working at home and my daughter's doing school from home and stuff. So I help out getting my daughter going in the morning and stuff. Even though she's a senior in high school, you wouldn't think I'd have to get her going, but she needs that kick in the butt. So I get her going and just watch a little TV, then get up here at about 8 o'clock and try to start working. And I usually stay up here till about, I don't know, 5:30 and then call it, unless, deadline wise, I have to come back up here at night or something.
Yeah.
So it's pretty mundane.
Yeah. My son's 10. I have a feeling when he's a senior, I'll still be making sure he gets up and everything. Right now I have to get his clothes ready and wake him up and then go check on him again and wake him up because he always goes back to sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He constantly turn that down. So she constantly goes back to sleep, and it's just like when I was 17, I can remember in high school and even in middle school, I could wake up with an alarm clock.
Yeah.
I'd hit it and I'd snooze it a few times. But man, I tell you, we've gotten loud alarm clocks and it just goes off and we can hear it in our bedroom. I mean, we're just across the hall, but it's just like, come on, get up.
Yeah.
How can you sleep through that?
No, my son takes after my wife. I'm a morning person. They both like to sleep in as long as possible. So yeah, it's frustrating when you when you have to get someone up and they just won't cooperate.
Yeah, and I'm a morning person too. Like, I know for a fact she doesn't go to bed probably until 1 a.m., maybe even 2. But
Yeah,
then I would think after 5 days of getting up at, 7 o'clock, going to bed at 2, she would just be tired and just, naturally kind of fall asleep. But
yeah,
that's not the case.
yeah.
So,
No, the other day, my son, or other night, my son makes comics with me. We talked about this on your stream the other day, but
yeah.
he woke me up at 3 in the morning. He woke my wife and I. He came into my room and he was like, "Daddy, I just thought of the greatest story," and I was
At
like, Chase,
3 a.m.?
yeah, I was like, Chase, it's 3 in the morning. Go to bed. You tell me about the story in the morning. So the next morning, I woke when he got up. I said, "What's the deal with waking me up at 3 o'clock?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh,
And
no way.
I was like, you were wide awake. You came in our room. You turned on the light and said you had this great idea for a story. And I said, save it for the morning. And he goes, that didn't happen. And I was like, are you telling me you were sleepwalking? He was as wide awake as could be. He was like, bubbly and excited about this story. But the strange thing is, when I told him to go to bed, he was like, sure, and he just turned around and went to bed. Usually, like his normal self, he would argue with me and try to his best
Right.
to make me listen to him. So it was so so crazy.
Is that
But
your only
yeah,
one? Do you only have?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
he's a handful. So
Oh, yeah. No. All right. She's our only one, too. And yeah, she's a handful. So,
yeah,
um, that is hysterical, though. I mean, she's done stuff like that, but she's been a late nighter, like not going to bed till after midnight for years. I think
yeah,
at least all through high school. I mean, she's always had a hard time winding down and going to sleep. And
yeah,
and she has ADHD, so I know that's part of it.
uh-huh.
And she takes medicine for it and stuff. But still, I mean, if I make it till 10:30, that's long.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah, he's usually good about going to bed, but sometimes he has his devices in his room, and
Yeah.
apparently he goes on them and just stays up until the wee hours of the morning. But I'm admiring your room behind you, all your setup. Are you a big toy collector?
Uh, you know, we moved into this house in 2013, so it'll be 8 years in May. And I always did have some, but because I finally felt settled, like this, my office is above our garage, and our
Yeah,
garage is a 2-car garage, so it takes up the whole width. And it's not like a new 2-car garage, which is smaller. The garage was built, well, the house was built 50 years ago. The garage was probably built 40. So it's a big 2-car garage. So I've got lots of space up here. And I just started, over the past 7 years, kind of filling it back up with stuff. Um, it really has to strike my fancy. Like I've got, and you can't see it in the shot. You can see that's Superman, but on a bookshelf against another wall, one whole shelf is dedicated to like Superman toys. And then the
yeah,
shelf below it is Green Lantern because I love Green Lantern. But I also like die cast metal cars. So I've got a bunch of those. And then if if an action figure comes out, it's a cool sculpt, I'll get it.
yeah,
Doesn't have to be any figure that I care enough about or character. It's just got to have a cool sculpt, and I'll be like, that's cool, I'll get that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm in my basement. My basement is pretty much my man cave. That's the one area my wife lets me have all my nerdy stuff. I have all my graphic novels, all
oh
my
yeah.
wrestling figures. Every now and then she'll complain about it. And I was like, but you're the one who like bought me most of this stuff. When we first started dating, she knew I liked wrestling and comics, so she just like went all in like every Christmas and got me whatever she thought I would like. So that's like,
I
yeah,
was
that
just
makes
going to say that's really cool because like with the wrestling, I've got 2 Al Snow figures because I'm friends with Al.
Oh,
So
nice.
one of them is still in the the blister pack or whatever because he signed it, and another one's loose. But it's the exact same figure where it says Job Squad and it has head, and it came with a water bottle as well and stuff. So and then I've got a couple Hurricane figures because I'm friends with Shane as well. But yeah, I used to watch wrestling a lot.
Yeah. I think that Al Snow figure was pretty controversial when it came out back in the day because people said it had a decapitated woman's head in the packaging, not realizing it's like a mannequin head. But yeah, it was a big deal back in the day.
Oh, it totally was.
Yeah.
I think it got pulled off shelves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, when was the last? Do you still watch it or?
Oh yeah. I actually do a weekly show with my friend Phil McNulty, who's also a comic book artist, and we talk about AEW wrestling, Impact Wrestling. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So what's your? I haven't watched any of that stuff.
I
haven't watched. Put it this way, it's been so long since I watched it. I don't think AEW was even a thing yet.
Yeah.
I know Al has a thing in. Is it Ohio?
Yeah. OVW.
Yeah, OVW, which I know it's on TV out there because he really is growing it because he's the owner of it.
Yeah.
He took it over and stuff. But I don't think it's anywhere over here, but I'd love to watch it. I wish there was a reason I had to go to Ohio because I know one, it'd be fun to see him because I haven't seen Al probably in 10 years.
Yeah.
But two, I know he'd, take me to a show and stuff because when I first met him, he was still working I met him in 2000, right? When I was living in Tampa at CrossGen, working at CrossGen. And I happened to walk into a comic shop, on a Thursday, whatever day new stuff came out. And I saw him in there and I told him the story later, but I thought, because, he was just, obviously in plain clothes and stuff, buying comics.
Yeah.
And I thought he was, what's the guy's name? Was it Bradshaw? Remember the duo where the one dude, mustache, wore the cowboy hat and stuff?
Yeah.
And then his partner, I can't remember his partner's name.
Ron Simmons?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Bradshaw.
I thought it was Bradshaw. So
I
didn't say anything, but so he was in line checking out. I was behind him. He checked out. I checked out. He was walking out, and I told myself, I'm going to kick myself if I just don't say hi. So he was leaving. I said, hey, I just want to say hi. I'm a big fan. This was hysterical. He had 1 foot out the door, right? Because he probably gets this shit all the time, and he wasn't rude or anything, but he was literally 1 foot out the door, pretty much just going to go, oh, thanks a lot, and leave. And I said, yeah, I'm a big fan. I said, I watch wrestling all the time. I draw comic books for a living. He came right back in, right back. Dude, we talked for probably 20 minutes. He was in town because the WWE had a house show in town that night. And house show's not televised or anything.
Yeah.
So they were in town for a house show. So he's like, yeah, man, if you want to come do the show with some buddies, let me know and I'll get you in. So he gave me, he took out a card, wrote down his freaking phone number and even his address and stuff. So I went to the show, and then for the whole rest of the time, I think he left the WWE, I don't know, maybe 2005, 2006. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But every time they would come to town, whether it was when I was living in Tampa or when we moved up here to Charlotte, we'd get together and go out to eat, and then he'd get me backstage and introduce me to people. I met Batista and Ric Flair and all these other guys. He'd hook me up with some nice seats for the show and stuff. So
it's awesome. That's great. So we're here to talk First Man, but you have a long career in the comic industry. How'd you were you always interested in comics?
Yeah, you know, like everybody else, art wise, and I guess because you're just writing, right?
Yeah.
I know you as a writer, but you don't do any art, right?
I do art for children's books, but no comics.
Okay, but so
Yeah.
you know, you grow up
Yeah.
as a kid, and your son might even have went through this. I know my daughter did. You know, around 2 years old, they start drawing,
Hmm.
but eventually kids grow out of it because they just get other interests. But I believe artists like us, and at least everybody I've talked to, we don't grow out of it. We're the one that, you know, we start at 2, and instead of stopping at like 4 or 5, we just keep going. And you know, your parents are like, all right, you're drawing in class all the time, blah blah blah. And you know, I discovered comics probably around 1983, 82, 83 with an issue of Captain America by Mike Zeck and John Beatty, and it just blew me away. And that was it. I had it in my sights that I want to draw comics for a living.
Yeah.
And you know, I saw an ad for the Kubert School in the comics, and that's where I ended up going after high school. So yeah, I mean, I had blinders on, very
Yeah.
singularly focused.
When I was in high school, I guess like junior year, they would always send like the local colleges to our
Mhm.
school to like set up and hand out pamphlets, and they sent the Kubert School, and I was just like blown away that there was actually a school that taught comic art, and I
Oh
brought home
wow,
their brochure and showed my parents, and my parents were like, "You already know how to draw. We're not sending you to school for that."
really?
Yeah. Yeah, so I went to college and
Wow.
got a marketing degree.
Now, where you live now, is that where you grew up, or?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I moved all around. I grew up in Maryland.
Hmm.
So, you know, going to Dover, New Jersey, where the Kubert School was located, you know, we drove up there so I could do an in-person interview with Joe, which you didn't have to. You could do it over the phone, but you know, my parents and myself wanted to see where I'd be going, you know, and get a look
Yeah,
at the town and all that stuff. So yeah, we drove up there and I interviewed in person with Joe, and I actually got accepted in 1987 because that's when I graduated high school. But like, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 weeks before the school started in the fall, I decided to take a gap year. And, you know, we called the school and Joe was like, no problem. We'll just save you a spot for fall of 88. You know, you're already accepted. So, you know, we'll just basically save
yeah.
the spot for 88. So I took a year off and worked a full-time job and stuff. And, you know, started in 1988. So,
Now, did you go right into the industry once you graduated from the Kubert School?
yeah, I got my first gig actually at DC in March of my senior year.
Oh, wow.
So I was still a student when I got it, and it was an inventory job, so there was no deadline on it. And the editor was real cool. He's like, "Look, I know you're going to the Kubert School, so I tell you what, finish school, and then you know." He basically was like, you know, stay in touch with me, but finish school. And school finished in May, so it was only 2 months, March, April, May. Yeah, 2 months. And he was like, "No, finish school, and I'll get you the script, and you can start on it after you get out of school."
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
you know, that was cool because the last thing I'd want to do is try to finish school and you know work, you know, drawing a gig or
We have Amanda
whatnot.
in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Amanda.
Hello, Amanda.
She says, "Hey guys, 2 days to go. TikTok.
Oh
Congrats thus
yeah,
far, Andy."
thank you. Yeah.
So
So go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think I first like remember seeing your name maybe either like Exo Manowar or Warlock Infinity Watch. Where
Man, well, so EXO was after that, but
yeah,
just the fact that you remember um, that Warlock issue, because that was only one issue. I was a
yeah,
fill-in. You
yeah,
know, they needed to get, you know, they were looking for something for me because I was between things. And they said, you know, can you do this? We need it in a couple weeks, though. And I was like, yeah, but I can only do breakdowns if you need it in 2 weeks. There's no way I can do full pencils. So I just did breakdowns on it. And I can't remember if more than one inker worked on it or not in regards to the finishes. But just the fact, now like nobody brings that up because it was literally just one issue. So that's pretty funny. But then that was around 93, 92, 93. And then EXO was about 95, I think.
Yeah.
So,
but I was looking at your Comic Vine page. You've practically worked on just about every big character: X-Men, Batman, Superman. Do you have a favorite?
Green Lantern.
Yeah,
I love Green Lantern. It's funny when I used to say that, I used to say I like the B-list characters, but he's considered A-list now. So
yeah.
But back in the 90s, he was a B-lister, just like Aquaman, because I love Aquaman as well. And I was able to draw one issue of him. But for DC, it's probably Green Lantern. And then for Marvel, it's Captain America. So,
yeah. At what point did you, now we're here to talk First Man. I know First Man started out as an Image comic. At what point did you decide you were going to branch out and try something creator owned?
With like when it came out through Image?
Yeah.
I was doing, I want to say, I'm trying to remember how that worked out. I was talking to Eric Larson because Eric was the one that brought me into Image in the early 90s. I did an issue of Vanguard for him, and Vanguard was a 6-issue miniseries, but he had a different artist draw every issue. And I drew issue 6. And then let me see if I can remember everybody else. This isn't in order, but Angel Medina, Rick Leonardi, Scott Eaton, Joe Madureira, I think Tom Coker, and then myself. So I did that. And then after that, I did Deadly Duo. And then a few years went by and I was talking to him and he's like, why don't you just do your own thing over here? And I was like, oh, what would I have to do to get that green lit? And he's like, I just green lit it. I mean, this is 1996, I think.
Yeah.
And he was that. I mean, that's how it was. He's like, I just green lit it. So just, do what you want and send it in. And, I'll get you the paperwork. So I don't think the deal's changed.
Yeah.
They still just take a flat fee out of the back end. And then whatever's left over after print cost and whatever else they send you.
Yeah. That's awesome. Back when John and I first started Graveyard Shift, I was writing Evangeline at Image, and John was drawing Youngblood at Image. And we sent the pitch to Eric Stevenson, and he didn't even respond to us.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The times are different now.
Well, we sent, I did with Bart and Ron Mars, and we did Ominous Press a couple years ago again. And we ended up doing a joint venture with IDW where, they basically published the stuff, but we owned it because it was our stuff. Yeah. But we tried Image first. We went to Image first with all the stuff, and nothing. No response. No email back, nothing. And we tried a couple times. Same thing, went to Stevenson, and you'd think with the creators we were, it would have worked out, but nothing. So we went, all right, let's talk to IDW because Ron knew somebody over there. Mm-hmm. So it did work out over there, but what do you want to do? But so anyhow, I did that first issue back then, and the sales weren't that great. And since I was paying for everything, I just couldn't do it. So that just went to the wayside, and I just went back working, for Marvel and DC and whatnot again.
Did you, so what made you think that now would be the perfect time to bring First Man back?
Well, last year I did my first creator-owned thing with Jungle Lords Ultra, which was a flip book with the two separate stories. And after that ended, I thought, I want to finish First Man. I want to finish the story because it said to be continued. I want to redo some of the artwork, and re-script it, have the whole thing re-scripted, have that whole first issue recolored, So the first issue was 27 pages. So I went into it because I have all the original artwork. So I went in, scanned it all back in, and redrew some stuff. Like I said, I'm getting it all recolored. I'm having it. It's going to be all rescripted, and then I added 31 new pages to finish the story. So it's a nice, it's going to be a 64-page book, but it's a self-contained story. So finally,
Yeah.
24 years later, I can say it's finally done, and I'd like to do more because I love the superhero stuff, and with it being my creation and stuff. And I am working with my buddy, Rob Snyder, who actually worked on the first one back in the day on the scripting side of things, again, for the scripting. And, the way I work is really Marvel, old school Marvel plot style, where I basically just came up with the visuals for the rest of the story and drew it. And then, I contacted him and said, hey, this is what I'm doing with First Man. Are you in? And he was like, oh, yeah. And I said, all right, I'm going to send you the stuff. So I sent it to him as I was working on it. And when it was done, I sent him a PDF of the whole thing and said, I need you to script it. And we talked on the phone and just kind of talked for about an hour or so about the story itself, so he could get an idea on how to script it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the script is going to be really different from the original. Because I like the stories. I love the Justice League from the late 80s, early 90s, Keith Giffen stuff.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was superhero, but it had a sense of humor to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want First Man to have. I want to have a sense of humor to it. And the way to do that in this is through Luke Henry, because he's in this first story, besides Luke's dad, he's the only, human or earthling, I guess you could say, that you see in the whole story, So the humor comes through with his dialogue. It definitely doesn't come through with Monarch, the bad guy, and Penumbra. And then Apollo is the character that Luke takes on when he merges to basically become Apollo, kind of like Billy Batson becomes Shazam.
Yeah.
So there can be, that's where the humor would be. It's not that the situations are funny. It's just, it's more of the dialogue and stuff.
Right. How has the crowdfunding experience been for you this time around compared to your first campaign?
It's good. I don't know why we still have a home phone. I do know why, because they get you with that whole, well, if you have a home phone, cable, and internet, it's cheaper.
Right.
So it's like, great. So it just rings, and I literally hit the off button. The first time around, I did it on Kickstarter, and then once that ended, because it did well, Indiegogo actually contacted me. Somebody from Indiegogo contacted me and said, hey, when your campaign's over, do you want to go in demand with it with us? And I was like, sure. So that one is still in demand. And then I was talking to Ethan in the fall. Yeah, around the fall, late summer, fall last year. And, we were talking about Comicsgate and stuff. And he's like, you'd fit great. You should come over. And I was like, all right. Yeah, I like that idea. So that's why I went with Indiegogo out of the gate with this one, because it seems that more of us Comicsgate in the community do Indiegogo. So I was like, all right, I'll do that. And it's been a great community. I mean, that's how I met you and so many other people, and been on different streams, people's live streams and stuff. And it's just been really nice, all the interaction and stuff. So it's, once again, learning just a few things, because Indiegogo's a little different, but it's not that much of a different animal. So
yeah. You want to take a look at your campaign?
Sure.
All right. Let me pull it up. All right. You want me to play the video?
Sure.
Okay.
First Man. You know the drill. A college kid is imbued with great power. and likes it. Penumbra has other plans and hand delivers him to Monarch, a fun 64-page action-packed comic book harkening back to the glory days of Marvel Comics, only on Indiegogo.
Nice. I like
That's
it. Short and sweet.
Nice and tight, concise.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nope.
and the artwork looks beautiful. I
Thank
feel
you.
like First Man and Sea Dog are like the two books out that are for people who have been like asking for fun comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just this is for them. So
Yeah.
let's go through the campaign and look at some of the art before we go over the tiers. So it's a 64-page graphic novel and a
Yep.
perfect bound spine. That's what I always look for when I go through campaigns. I like the square bound spine. I like putting books on my bookshelf behind me more so than putting them in log boxes. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
same here. Same here.
And you got the whole cast: Luke Henry,
Yep.
Apollo, Penumbra, and Monarch. I love the design on Monarch. I love how just like larger than life he is compared to the other characters.
Yeah, and those are all in scale. So basically it goes Apollo 7 feet, she's 6 feet, he's 8 feet, and Luke I modeled after myself at a striking 5'10". So
Nice.
and then
And
each character is going to have the old Marvel Universe type page from the old Marvel Universe handbooks. I love those as a kid.
Oh yeah, they were
Up.
great.
Yeah, so every character is going to have their own bio page as well.
And here's some interior artwork. So
Yep.
are you the narrator of the story?
No, just doing the intro. That's kind of my throwback to Joe Kubert, because Joe would, not with all his stories, but with some Sergeant Rock stories. And then I think with most of the Tor's his character, Tor stories that came out in the 50s, he would introduce them on the first page of the book. It'd be him at his desk, and he would just, have a couple word balloons introducing the story, and then it would be the story. So it wouldn't be his voice throughout the whole story. It's just an introduction. So I thought this worked well because it is back finally after so many years to say, hey, welcome back. This is what I'm doing. Appreciate you for joining me, blah, blah, blah.
That's
Stuff.
cool. So this is like one of the new additions to the original?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, the artwork looks amazing. Colors are real nice.
Yeah, the guy's really good that I'm working with on the colors. So my hat is off the colors because I've colored a few things for myself and for outside of comics for clients and stuff. And you just got to really like doing it. I think it's the same with lettering. I've lettered a few things, using Illustrator and stuff to letter. It just bores me. It's just, it's not my cup of tea, and I'm not that fast at it. So
one thing you have in the book, which I like, you have the parody pie ads.
I love those.
Yeah, any old school fans still remember the ads in Marvel Comics?
Yep. Love those as a kid. Always wanted to do one. Same thing with the Marvel Universe. I always wanted to do it, but I got into the business too late. So
yeah,
I figure, well, it's my book, my world. I can do it now.
And you have a Bart Sears variant cover?
Yep.
Very nice. And a program book. What can you tell us about that?
The program book is an extra 40-page book that is, it's just stapled. It's not square bound, being 40 pages. It's basically behind the scenes. So it starts off with guest artists showing their take on First Man. And then after about 14 of those, the rest of the book is just, page layouts and rough form, concept design stuff and things like that. So it's a behind the scenes making of the book, kind of like, the extras on a DVD.
Yeah, you have some heavy hitters contributing to that. Adam Hughes, Brian Hitch, Mike Zeck, Kevin Nolan, J. Scott Campbell, Brandon Peterson, Bart Sears, Alan Davis, and George Perez. That's a murderer's row. That's a killer lineup.
And there's a couple more in the book that will be surprises. I'll just leave it at that. So
All right, let's go through your tiers. Your featured tier, First Man Complete Set.
Yep.
What
So
do
that's
we?
basically 2 copies of the book, one with my cover, one with Bart's cover, and then the program book.
Very cool. First Man Program book.
Yep.
We just went over that. $15, and your estimated shipping is April 2021. So you're expecting a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Nice.
once the campaign's done, I'll start putting the stuff together. The colors, still working on pages. But beyond that, the program book, I can start putting that together anytime. So I already have it all laid out. I have, when we were doing the Ominous Press thing, Bart designed these basically book maps of just on an 8.5 by 11 page, just little thumbnail blocks going across and down. And I think it fits up to like 64 pages. And I just open that in Photoshop and just lay out what goes on each page. So then when it comes to putting a book together, it's a snap.
Yeah.
So
for $25, you get the printed book, your cover. And then for $35, it's the Bart Sears variant cover.
Yep.
$35, you get the First Man book and program book.
Yep.
It's a great deal. And for $100, you get a 6x9 head sketch in the book.
Yeah.
And
what I'm going to do with those is, because I've had a few people ask, and it makes sense if I could do it not in the book, because like you said, some people put books in long boxes, some put them on their shelf.
Yeah.
And they'd rather have the art separate. So I'm going to probably do all the art, unless somebody really wants it in the book. I'm probably going to do all the art on a separate piece of Bristol board, same size, so
yeah.
The only difference is you'll be able to actually hang it up and frame it or put it in a portfolio. So
very cool. And then I see you have some sketch covers you put up.
Yeah.
This one, Storm sketch cover for $200.
Yep. That gets the book, obviously.
Yep. Spider-Woman sketch cover. Then you have a single figure commission, and I assume that'll
same thing. I'll do it on a separate sheet.
Yep. And then a Justice League sketch cover that is pretty incredible. You went all out.
Yeah. All these. So, with the past year having no conventions, I usually take, I do sketch covers at home just for fun. Maybe on a weekend, I'll be like, I want to draw something fun for myself. And I take them to cons, sell them, buy new blanks at the con, rinse and repeat. But there are no cons last year. So I've got all these sketch covers sitting here. So I was like, I should just throw some up on a campaign. So I just went through and picked some that I thought would be good, because there was a Wonder Woman one that sold. Actually, there was a Wonder Woman Superman that sold. And then there was also a Wonder Woman zombie on a Walking Dead I did that already sold. So
that's great. So right now you're at 13,660. Is there a $15,000 stretch goal, or do you have any stretch goals?
Yeah, right now everybody's getting a 2-sided bookmark featuring Penumbra. Everybody's getting a trading card that's double-sided, and then at 15,000, the stretch goal is a 4x5-inch magnet. So, got the time, and it's not too far away. So hopefully we can get it there, and then everybody will get a magnet as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you're going to get there. One thing about Comicsgate, they always come up big at the end of a campaign. So there's still 2 days left. Links are down in the description, and I've been sending them out in the chat. So
cool.
Make sure you pre-order your copy of First Man. I already pre-ordered mine. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the book. What else do you have in the works? Do you have another project lined up after First Man?
So when it comes to the crowdfunding thing, I want to do another one, a second issue, basically. And then besides that, I'm actually working on a creator-owned thing now with a buddy of mine for heavy metal. And it's like a 12-page introductory story to it. And then if it goes well, I guess we'll do more. Because, you know, heavy metal now comes out monthly.
Yeah.
It's always been an anthology. So, you know, 10 to 12 pages, that's easy enough to fit in. So that's a create your own thing I'm doing now, which is not superhero, obviously, with it being heavy metal, but it's also not, I mean, it's, if you just look at it, it's real world, but there is a touch of sci-fi or fantasy to it because of there's time travel involved in it.
Yeah.
So
when it comes to fulfillment for First Man, are you planning on doing it yourself?
I am. I
Yeah.
just looked at yesterday the Gemini mailers. So
yeah.
I went to the website, and you can tell me, do you do your own or no?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yep.
the best place I assume to get those is just from their website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I looked at
that's
their website yesterday and plan on placing an order for those. And yeah, I'm just going to do it all myself. I'll call in probably Dennis that you met when we had you guys on our show. I'll probably bribe him with some beer to come over and stuff some stuff. You know, the part and you know, tell me if you agree with this. The part that I'm really not looking forward to doing is sitting at the computer on stamps.com and just doing the address and printing.
Yeah.
You know,
So I did it all down here in my man cave. I actually have a bar. I don't drink, but my father-in-law made me a bar when we bought the house. So that's kind of like my work area. So I set up my laptop. I have a thermal printer that prints out the labels. So I just put like on the WWE network and just like binged wrestling documentaries as I printed out all the labels and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Luckily, I've got two screens in front of me because I've got my Cintiq that I draw on and then the regular screen. So I think I'm just going to have to pop something up on one of the screens to watch. And the same thing, it's funny, as of now, when I send stuff out, I just print it on, you know, copy paper, cut it and tape it. But with this massive stuff, I think I'll actually, you know, spring for the self-adhered labels.
Yeah, no, I highly recommend it. I printed out on paper and cut when I fulfilled the first graveyard shift campaign, and that takes forever. This is so much simpler now that I switched over to like the 4x6 self-adhesive labels. Yeah, big time saver. I highly recommend it.
That is exactly what I plan on doing. I want to switch over and use those and see if I can maybe con my wife in, because she types faster, into doing some of the stamps.com stuff.
Yeah.
Because you know what's funny? This actually happened with the book I just sent you. So I cut and pasted your address into the stamps.com. And this is the one issue I have with stamps.com is after I cut and pasted in, it had the little X next to it saying that it was wrong. And I'm like, this is not wrong. What the hell? So I literally had to delete it and physically type it. And once I typed it, it automatically added, you know how some zip codes have the stupid dash with the 4 extra numbers now? It automatically added that to the end of your zip code.
Yeah.
And then it was okay. But cut and pasting is like a crapshoot. Sometimes I can cut and paste and it works fine. And other times, I had this one guy in New York, I cut and pasted the address and said there's no address. So before I emailed him, I literally took the address, popped it into Google, and it came up, but it came up under Queens, New York, not whatever he said. So I emailed him. I said, dude, is this the right address? Because it says Queens when I Google it. And he goes, you know, they break it up differently. Sometimes it's Queens. Sometimes it's, I think it was Bayside, whatever. He's like, that's accurate. You know, I was like, all right. So I just kept having to try and figure it out. And I finally got the stupid stamps.com thing to accept it. But it's just, that's like the one beef I have.
Yeah.
It's like, just take the address.
It can be a little frustrating. We have Dingo MK in the chat. He says you have the coolest comic room.
Yeah, you can't even see it all. Here, I can do this.
Nice. Wow.
I can even spin. there's my actual desk and my spin rack, and then another bookshelf. So yeah, I've got it, you know, people come up here and they're like, oh, that's really cool. I'd love to just go to work there. And it's like, yeah, but you know, I'm a people person. I'm by myself all day.
Yeah. So since you're a people person, are you enjoying doing all the live streams?
Oh yeah, I love doing them. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're real fun. Yeah, I really enjoy them a lot. So, you know what it's a catch-22 because there's certain aspects like when I'm laying out a page, I don't need total silence. I mean, I always have something going, usually a podcast.
Yeah.
But I can't. It's like when I'm doing con sketches, I can't really talk when I draw at a certain stage. But if I'm inking something, then I can talk no problem. So, you know, every now and then I want to, you know, get on speakerphone with somebody just to chat with when I'm inking, just so, you know, it feels like a studio type thing.
Right.
So
it's getting about that time to wrap it up. We're getting close to 50 minutes. Is there anything you want people out there to know about First Man that we haven't covered?
You know, if you like, basically, I grew up reading books from the late 70s and 80s. It seemed to me, and I know they weren't all this way, but it just seemed a lot of those were just one-off stories. Or if they were to be continued, you still got the bulk of it. So it's just it's a fun, as I say, a fun, action-packed, classic superhero story that kind of does harken back to the Silver Age of comics. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. It's cosmic. You know, if I were to put it in a genre, I'd put it in the Captain Marvel type genre with the cosmic elements to it and stuff. And I just think it's a fun yarn. So
yeah, I think it looks fantastic. I'm excited to get my copy. Everyone, I've put the link out in the chat, but it's also in the description. So if you haven't already pre-ordered your copy, make sure you check out First Man. I think you're going to be really happy with it. Andy, where can people find you on social media?
So Twitter's Andy Smith Art, Instagram's Andy Smith Art, Facebook's Andy Smith Art, and then YouTube. The best thing on YouTube is just Google Andy Smith. Well, actually, you could probably Google Andy Smith Art. That's not the name of it, but some video of mine will come up with me drawing or something, and then just click that and hit like and subscribe on the channel, and there you go.
And then you do a show with your friend Dennis. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
My buddy Dennis and I do a podcast called The Dennis and Andy Show, and that's what it is on YouTube, The Dennis and Andy Show. And we do that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So
Clint and I were the first guests, weren't we?
That's right. You were.
Awesome.
You were the first guest. We want to build out more. So, yep, you guys were the first guests.
Yeah, thank you for that. So what do you and Dennis usually talk about?
So Wednesday is the day where he actually comes over because he lives in town, and we do it. We're always live when we do it, but Wednesday we're live from my office, and just sitting at a table together. And that's the day where we talk about new comics that came out, because we're still both big nerds that go to the comic shop on Wednesday. Yeah, so we talk about new comics. If there's any comics or storylines we want to review, we usually do the comic book reviews on Wednesday. Friday is with WandaVision now. Friday is generally reviewing the latest WandaVision or a movie review. So we'll catch something on Netflix. He might see something and be like, dude, you got to watch this, or vice versa. And it could be a TV show on Netflix. We just reviewed Sweet Home, which is a show on Netflix that was filmed in Korea. That is it's basically people that turn into monsters, and some are good, some are bad. And it was a 10-episode thing. We kind of had differing views on that one. So Friday's more movie TV review. And then Monday was kind of football stuff, because we're both football fans, but now football's gone. So Monday could just be generic pop culture stuff or interviews like we did with you guys. So
very cool.
And it's usually around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
So if you're out there, make sure you subscribe to Andy's YouTube channel. Andy, I want to thank you for joining me. And
Thank you.
everyone out there, make sure you get your copy of First Man. All right, guys. You can find me on social media at Coney Waves for Instagram and Twitter. And make sure you subscribe to Primetime Poulton and hit the notifications. And I'll be back tomorrow. I have Edwin Acevedo on at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to talk about his upcoming graphic novel, The Ace. Thanks for joining us, guys.